I am starting things off right, being early to stream for once. What's up, everyone? We made it! Oh my god! Oh my I'm sorry, I'm screaming. Oh my god! We did it though! We did it. I should say all of you did it because I can only subscribe to myself once. So, to all of you who have subscribed over the last 4+ years, oh my gosh, thank you so much. If I don't seem just bouncing off the walls excited right now, it's just because I've been sitting on this now for a day because I surpassed the 100,000 mark early yesterday evening while and it was so special the way that it happened, and I'll talk about this more. We're gonna watch a little bit of footage from Andy's show that I was on, Popcorn Planet, Andy and Steph show, and then also Pop Culture Crisis. They also yesterday were trying to get me past the 100,000 mark, and they covered my performance art stunt from South by Southwest in Austin. So anyway, it was a special thing because I was on Popcorn Planet. I was on Andy's show with Andy at the very moment that my channel passed 100,000 subscribers for the first time. And I have no doubt that Andy very much helped to make that happen. He had been for the past 2 days promoting my channel, trying to get online, trying to get people to subscribe to me. And then he invited me on his show yesterday. He said, "Look, I want to have you on. I want to have you on Popcorn Planet, and we're going to get you over the edge. I'm going to make a special point of doing that. We're going to get you over the edge." What's up, Lisa? Lisa, how are you doing? And to everyone else, hello to my mods. Hello to Neil Price. What is up? Yeah, remind me. Keep reminding me, but I will do that, Neil, because it's interesting. He wants to talk about. I don't have much to say about Rachel Ziegler actually, or anything, because I'm totally out of the loop on that. But I can talk about Blake's mental health for sure. But thank you so much for your support. Laura B, my mod, one of my mods, thank you for being here. I know AJ's going to join in a little while. I think he's on, is it Tug's stream? I don't even know who he's modding, but someone who likes better than me. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. And then my apologies too if I scheduled this up against Tug's show. I can't keep track of who's going on when. I know he knows that. He won't mind. And thank you also to Vanessa and Rebel Bird, my other two mods who have helped me to get here because I do not stream on my own, and they are great. So, yeah, so anyway, it was very special because I was on Andy's show. He had me on there to help me get over that 100,000 mark. And then I got a text before I went on Andy's show. Right before I went on Andy's show, I got a text from Brett Dasovic of Pop Culture Crisis. And, I've been on that show a lot too. Andy's actually been on that show as well. He's a big fan of theirs. But I've been on that show several times, gotten to know both Brett and Mary, and occasionally will even spoof them on my channel and accuse them of being KGB spies and stuff like that. So anyway, and he texted me, Brett, and he said, "Look, we're going to," basically the same thing that Andy has said. He was like, "Look, we're going to really promote you today. We're going to talk a lot about your stunt at South by Southwest, and we're going to get you over that 100,000 mark." And so what was happening is that I was on Andy's show at the very same time that Pop Culture Crisis was promoting me and was telling people to get on here. So I had like two of my best friends in this industry, so to speak, in this realm, content creators fellow content creators who have both surpassed the 100,000 mark by far, and who know how much that means to someone who's been doing this for a while. And so it was so special to pass that mark. We'll look at some video from it in a little while. But it's the thing that's huge about it. It's not the plaque. I don't even know if I'm going to be getting the plaque in this lifetime, the YouTube plaque. To people who don't know what I'm talking about, YouTube is supposed to, when you pass the 100,000 mark, send you this commemorative plaque, or they call it a play button or something, right? And it's kind of cool looking. I don't know if it's expensive or not, but it's cool looking. And so I know that Pop Culture Crisis, they said that it took a long time. I think it took months before they finally got theirs. And then Andy told me that YouTube actually withholds the plaque sometimes from creators over like content or political issues, or I don't know. So anyway, so it sounds like it's going to be quite a feat to even get this plaque, but this play button. But I am the thing that's so exciting about passing 100 is that, as you all know, it is just it's a big mental barrier for a lot of people in terms of taking content seriously. And I'm the same way too. I hate to say it, but if I go to someone's page, if I see a video that I like and then I click on that person's page because I want to see more what's going on with them, and I see that they have over 100,000 subscribers. I mean, it's terrible of me to say this because I was stuck in the under 100,000 zone for a long time. But if they have over 100,000 subscribers, then there's something about that to me that lends a little more credibility. And I'll be like, oh, okay, well, they've got over 100 grand. Now let me 100K. Now let me look at this, see what's going on here, right? So it's just a human bias that these numerical thresholds, they mean something. Just like 1,000 means something different than 999 and 10,000. You get what I'm saying, right? So anyway, next shot, I guess the next goal is 1 million. And I think it's going to be a while before we get there, but that is okay. But this is so awesome, and it's so awesome the time that it's happening because it is the same week that I did this Blake Lively premiere stunt, and it really did get way more attention than I thought. I know when I went on Andy's show yesterday, he asked me about this, and he's like, "Come on, really? Like you didn't think that was going to get covered?" And I didn't, because I think that the mainstream media is still pretty stacked in Blake's corner. So I just figured that I didn't think Variety or any of these other outlets would want to be covering the fact that there was someone protesting at Blake Lively's premiere. I just thought that would be a story that they wouldn't want to cover, or they wouldn't want to give me more promotion. Now, Daily Mail, okay, I guess it wasn't completely shocking that they would have covered it because they cover a lot of stuff, but front page breaking news, I mean, that was, at one point, I was the most important story in the world for the Daily Mail. One person holding up a sign. Let me get some visual aids on here, as you know that's important. One person holding up a sign got so much attention, and I just think that's funny. Now, someone pointed out to me this Daily Beast article in which the way that they presented it, which I thought was kind of funny and frankly more accurate than I've seen it presented elsewhere. Blake Lively, the title on this is Blake Lively Ignores Justin Baldoni Fan at South by Southwest First Movie Premiere Since Legal Drama Exploded. I'll say this is at least more accurate than the Daily Mail headline, which said that I brutally hijacked the premiere. I love that. I love that the headline on the Daily Mail story for a while, it was me with this poster yelling, and this was breaking news, right? Center front page breaking news on the Daily Mail, and it said Blake Lively's premiere brutally hijacked by protester. Yeah. So anyway, again, funny, and also got me way more attention than I thought it would, which I'm grateful for. And it's been fun going on all these different shows. And so to those of you who are new to my channel and you're just now discovering me because of this stunt, then yeah, welcome. But yes, we hit 100,000. I'm so grateful. It has been 4+ years. I started my channel in January of 2021. Yeah, January of 2021 is when I started my channel. And you can go back and you can look at that first video and see how pitiful it looked. But you got to start somewhere. And I can go back and look at those early videos and I can still see basically where I'm more or less the same. You just add a bit more polish. You learn how to speak with a few fewer uhs and things like that, although I still do it too much, and you just get more comfortable after a while. The first videos that I see I'm doing, I seem pretty nervous, and I come across almost kind of anxious sometimes on camera anyway, but I'm definitely talking really fast and nervous. But you know what? Put the video out there, get hundreds of followers, next video, next video, next video. It really is a process. And I'll tell you all what I have seen through the last 4 years with this. And there were years, there was like 2 years or more where I was stuck at from 86 to 88,000. I mean, up until recently, up until this Blake Lively stuff started, I was in the 88,000 zone for years after Depp versus Heard, because what happened is with Depp versus Heard, I had this explosion, right? When I started covering the trial, I think I'd been at like about 15, 20,000 subscribers, maybe 15. And then when the trial happened, then I exploded to almost 90,000. The trial ended and my numbers started drifting down just a bit and then stabilized at 88,000 and then just didn't leave that until like 2 months ago. So it is a big deal. It feels like a big deal to get over 100,000. But I tell you what I've learned through all this is that Woody Allen really was right when he said that in life, showing up is half the battle. And I do think, I do think that that is the case. I can look back and I can see that even when I didn't feel like it or I was discouraged, I was still knocking at that wall trying to make progress. And sometimes it's the things that you don't even think are going to be a big deal that end up making a big impact. Case in point, this protest here, which I almost didn't do. I was very on the fence about whether I was going to do this or not, because, it is a drag having to get in the car and drive a certain amount of time down the road. And then you get there and then there's the logistics of dealing with the South by Southwest traffic and all the people, putting the signage together, getting everything that looks right, then going down there and just actually dealing with the stress. I mean, it is, I'm laughing and stuff, but it's, and I guess there's an adrenaline to it. But it's really kind of pretty stressful what I was doing down there with that stunt, so to speak. And so I really thought about not doing that. And I didn't feel good the morning I woke up and I was not in the mood for it. And in fact, I had some technical mishaps right before I went out on the street when I was in the hotel getting ready, right before I went out there. And I started crying because I stress cry a lot. And that's something that you all don't see. People make it look so easy, good content creators. I was thinking about that when I was on Andy's show yesterday, because I know how much meticulous care Andy puts into producing his shows, every show, and how much thought there is and everything, and competence and strategy, but he makes it look so easy, right? And I was thinking about that when I was actually on the show, but I understand it. We make it look really easy. And I'm not saying it's the hardest work in the world, but you don't see all the stress behind it. And so like I actually, before I went out there, I'd say about 10 minutes before you see me on camera smiling, I was crying just because I was stressed out. Things were not working right. I was having technical issues. I was there late. I got there later than I wanted to. And I was afraid that I was going to miss some good opportunities. And I was like stress crying, and my significant other who was there with me, driving me around, he's just like, so are you going to do this or what? And those are the things that people don't see, right? So I think it's always interesting to keep in mind in all of this, because people look at it and they sort of sometimes idealize you, or they say, oh, wow, so brave or whatever. And it's like, well, I wasn't really that brave. I think what bravery is feeling the fear, like that book title, feeling the fear and just doing it anyway. Because I was stressed out inside. I was afraid, not afraid of anyone hurting me or whatever, but like at every point that you're seeing this, I'm feeling discomfort with what I'm doing. It's not like I'm immune to discomfort. I'm some weirdo that just doesn't feel it. And so, but what I tell myself is, but it's going to be worth it if I can just get some cool YouTube footage or whatever, or I can, make my voice heard, or who knows, right? And so it's like, just suck it up and do it. And I know that's kind of trite and cliche, but that's the best advice I can give to anyone who wants to do YouTube or get into social media, whether you want to do kind of what I'm doing or something else. A lot of it is just showing up and sucking it up and just doing it, even though it makes you uncomfortable. All right. So let's get into it. I want to talk about some stuff. And let me look at super chats, and then Neil, we will actually start, so I don't forget it. We'll start with your question. So, what is up? Hey, I'm so glad that you super chatted, so I can see you're in there. I'm terrible about reading my reading my chats otherwise. The Court of Random Opinion, congrats, you earned it. Definitely want to check out her show. I've seen a couple of episodes now. Definitely want to check out her show though online, and thank you so much for that. And I appreciate you saying nice things about me. You also did a video that I really liked too. I think it was something to the effect of mainstream media loses it over protester, something like. It was a better title than that. You remember it, but it was a really good video. So people should check that out. Laura B, what's up? Put a QR code on your forehead next time. I know. Well, so this is interesting. Andy told me at Popcorn Planet that he was actually glad that I did not put my name or a QR code or anything on the poster, because he said that made it look less slick. That made it look like I was actually like a genuine person there instead of someone who's just out to promote myself, right? So maybe, so I don't know, maybe it made it look better. Maybe if you can imagine on this poster an at Colonel Kurtz 99 or a code, that it would look a little tacky, a little tackier than it did. I don't know. But anyway, okay, so Neil Price's question here is Lady Colin Campbell brought this up. So as a kind of a good entree into this, or entrance into this, let's look at this. And look, I understand to take Lady Colin Campbell, just like anybody, with a grain of salt here, because she's very open about the fact that she gets her information from secondhand from other people who are talking out of turn, so to speak, right? Or people who are gossiping, or they're telling her stuff they aren't supposed to, that sort of thing, right? So with all of this secondhand stuff, things I say too, you take it with a grain of salt. But to me, this is interesting also in conjunction with what Blake Lively's attorneys said in one of their filings recently about how they were seeking a wide-ranging protective order against Justin Baldoni's discovery of evidence, because one of the things that they mentioned was they didn't want serious medical conditions being exposed, serious medical conditions or mental health conditions of Blake Lively being exposed. Now, to me, it just kind of came across as a hypothetical, and that's why I didn't actually think much of it, of that detail in the Blake Lively's filings. But then I see Lady Colin Campbell talking about this, and so let's look at it, and then we can get into it. She says, "It's gratifying to learn that the tune my Hollywood bongo drums beat out several weeks ago is now being sung by Blake Lively's lawyer, namely that she has serious mental health issues. At the time, I was told that she was under medical supervision, and her legal representatives have now asserted that fact to the court in this filing I was talking about. Doubtless people will be speculating what her mental problems are. Is she a narcissist, sociopathic, psychotic? Is she mentally ill? Or, as a certain A-lister put it, just a, quote, spoiled, egocentric, overambitious bitch who's been found out and is using the mantle of mental illness to cloak that fact and get some pity when she deserves none." Then she says, "To me, it's amazing that a lawyer would seek to shroud his client in the mantle of mental illness. Justin Baldoni's case must be a heck of a lot better than anyone assumed, and most thinking people figured out a long time ago that it is excellent. It is also interesting to note what depths of self-flagellation and humiliation people will sink to protect a $400 million fortune." So she's saying here that her perception of this situation is that, oh, and thank you, Jody, for the super chat. Appreciate y'all. And also, you can donate at my PayPal. I don't think the mods will be putting up the link now and then when the stream is over, I will post it below in the comments. I don't actually think it's in the description right now, but you'll see it coming by. That's an option as well. I really appreciate you, and you can always put a message in the PayPal memo too, and I'll read it out. But thank you so much, Jody, for that, for the super chat. So I think that she says, "LO is terrible." Huh? I think that what she's getting at here basically is that Blake Lively's team must feel that Justin Baldoni's case against them is so good, or that things are so dire for her, that she is going to have to fall back on a mental illness excuse in some way, legally, or perhaps to the public in terms of PR. I'm not really sure. But basically, Lady Colin Campbell and others are taking the inclusion of that particular line in her attorney's filings about not wanting serious mental health issues to be exposed as evidence of the fact that that's going to maybe be part of their argument, right? So I don't know, honestly, Neil, like how I feel about that. I mean, well, let me put it this way. I mean, I think it's all ultimately BS. I don't think that it was a mental health issue, or even postpartum depression or anything like that has caused Blake Lively to do the terrible things that she's been doing to Justin Baldoni over the past months and years, right? I think that what's going on is just what Lady Colin Campbell said, that we're dealing with an out of touch, egocentric, narcissistic, et cetera, et cetera. And maybe there were also issues within her marriage and with Ryan Reynolds that were exacerbating things. I don't know. But no, I don't buy this excuse. But the question of like how she might use it, I mean, that would be something for the lawyers, like Lauren and others, the attorneys who are commenting on this thing in content creators, legal content creators, to address more than me. But I will say this. I have been from the beginning of this thing, like 2 months ago, when I first realized that Blake Lively was in the wrong here and that she had totally screwed up with all this. I've been saying for 2 months, you need to provide a full mea culpa, say I'm sorry, and basically say some version of I've been out of my mind. I don't know what I was thinking through this whole thing. I was clearly in the wrong, and I need to go away for a while and just figure out how I could have allowed myself to get in this state of mind where I'm thinking these things and I'm doing these things, right? And so I think one of the best excuses that she could use in that defense, so to speak, or that way of explaining, would be to say something like severe postpartum depression. And I know if she said something like that, all of you are going to be like, oh, come on, give me a fucking break. And it's going to make some people angry and it's not going to fix her image. But it is a way of easing into an I'm sorry or I screwed up that doesn't make her, I mean, what, y'all, she can't just say, I screwed up because I'm an evil bitch. Like she just can't, you can't expect anyone to go quite to that distance with things because that's just totally not in her interest and it's asking too much. I'm sorry. I know it's what some of you want. We all want it, but I don't think anyone's going to get that. But what we might get, or what Justin Baldoni might accept, would be a full concession that yes, Justin Baldoni is not and has never been a sexual harasser or a predator, and he did not create a negative work environment. Here, let me get some new pictures for us. He did not do any of these things. And furthermore, I realize that I have been completely out of line. I've messed up. She's going to need to say all of that, but there's going to need to be some kind of a reason attached. And I think that there's a way for her to do that. Doesn't sound like it's just blaming everything on postpartum depression, but again, a confluence of things. My father had died. She could even say she was having marriage problems. I don't know. But I don't see how else this thing ends except for a trial if she's not willing to do at least to step up to that line and offer that. So, Neil, I guess to get back to your question here, while I think that the mental health excuse, if it were used in any way, would be complete BS, truthfully, complete BS, I also think that it could, in terms of PR, be something that she could grasp onto that would give her maybe a bit of an out and still, though, provide for her to do a pretty full mea culpa and something that Justin Baldoni might accept. So I know some people get mad when I start saying stuff like that. You think I'm trying to help Blake or whatever, but I'm a pragmatist. And I really don't believe Justin Baldoni. I don't speak for him, but I really don't believe that he wants to go through a year plus of warfare, basically, which is what we're looking at, to then have to go through a trial that even if it's good for him, even if he gets a Johnny Depp experience or a Johnny Depp outcome, it's still going to be, I mean, that thing was excruciating for Johnny Depp. That was not fun to go through that trial, to go through all that shit. So I think if we ask Justin Baldoni, just my guess, would you rather go through a year of hell and go through a trial and all of this to completely thrash Blake Lively and triumph in the public eye and whatever, and get your revenge or vengeance, justice, however you want to put it? Or would you rather get an apology from her that totally clears you and that might somewhat rely on her giving some kind of a semi-excuse, and she pays you a lot of money as well, and you can move on? I think he would absolutely choose that option. I think he would. Now, he's such a nice guy. Maybe that's why, but I think he absolutely would do that. So I don't know, but yeah, that's my answer to that. I guess the mental health thing. And like I said, you can look at some of the attorneys like Lauren, their channels, and they'll have more to say about the legal aspect of it, because I don't pretend to be good or on legal matters or an expert or anything. Now, someone pointed out to me that there have been more articles today. And by the way, we're going to get to Jay-Z in just a little while, because I know a lot of you don't care about Jay-Z. So what I want to do is talk a lot about more about the Blake Lively stuff and whatever. And then for the people who want to stick around toward the latter part of the podcast and actually are interested in the Jay-Z story, we're going to listen to the recording. There are dueling recordings, y'all, in the Jay-Z thing. And again, I'm not going to get stuck on it right now, but there are 2 recordings that have come out. And there's just a dogfight going on between Jay-Z and this Texas lawyer, this flashy Texas lawyer, Tony Busby, who's also brought like 200 claims against claims from 200 people against Sean Combs, totally different thing and whatever. But anyways, it's a crazy story. I mean, the lawyer here that Jay-Z's team is accusing of pushing this woman to lie and to go after Jay-Z, he has a separate he has a separate assault case against him. One of his former clients claims that he had an affair with her while she was going through a divorce, but also represented her as her attorney, and he smashed a glass in her face and called her a whore or something. And then he also gave her an STD, but then he went into the court files and changed the medical records, her medical records in the court files, to make it look like her ex-husband that she was divorcing had given her the STD and not this Texas lawyer who was in a tussle with Jay-Z. What the fuck? What the fuck? Lauren, are you covering this thing? This is fucking crazy, but we'll get to it in a little while. If you want to hear about the entire crazy saga with the Jay-Z lawsuits, we can get into that. Okay. But I want to talk here about, let's talk about the media's freak out. So Kat Tenbarge, someone else that I don't want to defame anyone, but I believe she got fired and then spun it as, oh, I'm going independent. But I could be wrong about that. I don't know. Maybe the lady legitimately left her mainstream media NBC job. But she and Taylor Lorenz both did this thing where they either were let go from or fired. I think one is more likely than the other from their big media job. And from their big media jobs, and then they said, oh no, we're just going independent. So anyway, sorry, I'm terrible at doing this at the same time. Blake Lively, there we go. Okay. Someone just sent it to me. Let's go to news. Maybe it was an old, here, let me go to her Twitter now. I thought it was a pretty recent article that she had written. I don't know if it's just not making the news anymore. So Kat Tenbarge, if you don't know, she is very much like Taylor Lorenz. Just like Taylor Lorenz covered online culture, generally from a woke, leftist, highly pro Me Too perspective for the New York Times. So does Kat Tenbarge. Until recently, she had covered it for NBC. So I think that she's okay. All right, here we go. This is it. No, so it's yeah. So I see it's about two weeks ago. Are y'all able to see this? Oh, you can't see the new. Just a second. I hate it when it does that. When it won't share the new window that I'm trying to open. Just a second. There we go. Okay. So y'all can see this now. So again, Kat Tenbarge, very big online media critic from a left perspective, focuses a lot on quote unquote feminist issues, a lot like Taylor Lorenz, right? And Kat Tenbarge is one of the ones who has over the years critiqued the Justice for Johnny Depp movement and has written what I think are hit pieces along those lines, and also has critiqued the Justice for Marilyn Manson movement. She has referred to me at times. She has described me at times in pieces that she has written and things she has said online, because I am the most prominent Justice for Marilyn Manson person out there, a content creator. I cover that just like I covered Johnny Depp and the Justin Baldoni thing, different case, but also a Me Too hoax. And she has criticized me before and she's described me, but she will never in her work mention my name or actually call out whom she's referring to. And I just hate that. I hate that because, and I see the big super chat. Thank you. Get to you 1 second. I hate it when they do that because they are calling you out, and people are still going to know who they're talking about if they're plugged into that sphere, but then they're using you in a way, right? Like they are writing articles off the backs of my coverage of things and the work that I do, but they won't cite me in any way. And so she's done that before. It really annoys me, which is one reason why I was so pleased that the writer for the Cut magazine actually not only mentioned me, but quoted me and linked to my 13-minute video where I discussed why I did that performance art the other day at South by Southwest. That person is the only member of the mainstream media who did a good job covering what I did. The rest just used my image and tried to make me look ridiculous, basically. And or if the Daily Mail's case tried to make a massive story out of it, but they could not bring themselves to actually mention my name. So whatever. But this is Kat Tenbarge's latest here. And I just we're not going to read through the whole thing because she spends a lot of time actually getting into Blake Lively's complaints. And that's not really the direction I want to look at right now. But this is what she says. The Blake Lively story that isn't being told. It's easy to manipulate what people see on social media or don't. She says, for the past few weeks, I've been working on a story about media manipulation and misogyny. They love that term, misogyny. Two of the overarching themes in our culture right now. Oh, yeah. Misogyny is such a huge... Did y'all not know that woman hating is so in right now? It's so in. Come on. It's the first flaw, the first logical fallacy these people make is that they don't recognize that the reason that there is such an outcry and such an interest in Blake Lively is because she has done something jaw-droppingly evil and stupid to someone. That's the story, just like Amber Heard was the story. And they don't get that. Let me just say, make myself full screen for a second. They think that the fixation, the public's interest in and content creators' interest in someone like Amber Heard or Blake Lively, they think that it comes from some kind of misogyny that's just there. It's just there waiting underneath. It's just latent, right? It's like a case of herpes or something, and it's just waiting for the right trigger to like, psh, right? And that's not what it is. It really isn't. What it is that you have right now in this post-Me Too culture, what happened was Me Too, I know a lot of people, especially common people, had really good intentions for it. But basically what Me Too quickly became, if it was ever anything different, was a way to go after people and exact revenge or punishment or advance yourself or get an easy payoff or get a lot of media attention or burnish your activist credentials. Or deal with personal vendettas, whatever, all of the above. Take your pick. These things have all been significant motives in what people like Blake Lively and Amber Heard and a bunch of the others have done. And so what happened is Me Too enabled a lot of these manipulative, deceitful characters and women, because Me Too is primarily a women-focused movement, right, about protecting women, supposedly. It enabled a lot of manipulative, deceptive, narcissistic, put in whatever term you want, women to weaponize Me Too for their own various ends. And people don't like that. And moreover, it's kind of astounding the gall that these women have to do what they have done. You know, the reason why people were so amazed at or so interested in what Amber Heard did is because it was jaw-droppingly audacious for a woman who was in a relationship with a beloved movie star and she was abusing him to then turn around and for no reason, I mean, no good reason, to concoct this, not only this story, but this elaborate hoax centered around the idea that he was abusing her. Like the gall of that, the audacity. I remember I was sitting one time at Thanksgiving dinner with my basically father-in-law, because I'm not married. We've been together for many, many moons and will be for many moons, right? So it's basically like my father-in-law, right? My guy's dad. And we're sitting there at Thanksgiving. And at this point, my father-in-law had not heard the Amber Heard Johnny Depp story, because we're talking about like way back when I first started my channel. So this might have been Thanksgiving, November of 2022. That's how early in things we're talking. And I remember sitting there at Thanksgiving and he did not know the story. He just vaguely knew that there was something about it, like a lot of people, some kind of marital or post-marital dispute between Johnny Depp and some woman he had married. So I told him the story, like with the cut off finger and all of it, right? I told him the whole story. And he said to me, he said, my God, why am I not hearing about this everywhere? He's like, he's like, this is a huge story. He's like, you're telling me that there's this A-list actor who has this young, beautiful starlet wife who has concocted this hoax and cut off his finger and was abusing him and, and Elon Musk and I'm like, yeah. Of course, it ended up that when the trial started, then the story finally exploded. And that, by the way, was one of the reasons why the mainstream media were so pissed about that whole thing, too, is because they were caught unawares. They were not paying attention. They were sleeping at the job, so to speak. And suddenly this huge story explodes. And there are all of these content creators who have been following it for months or for years, who now have been able to rush in and really grab the coverage of it. And the mainstream media is still kind of out in the cold, like, what's going on? We don't know what's happening. But anyway, my point being that was a huge story just because it was what the fuck, jaw-dropping, the audacity of that woman. And so this is the same thing. What people are fascinated with, it's not about Blake Lively being a blonde woman or a hot woman or even an assertive woman. I understand that some of those videos, the mean girl thing or whatever, that interested a number of people early on in this thing, but that stuff was on the way out. It was getting old. Most people like me had never touched it or cared about it because like, oh, this is just some silly gossipy thing about, oh, she's a mean girl, right? So my point being, there was no reason for Blake Lively to do what she's done, and she did something that was so audacious. Outright lying about and trying to destroy her director and an entire movie studio that's basically protected by a billionaire who was willing to do whatever it took to protect it. How stupid, how like mind-blowingly audacious. That is why people, Blake Lively, are paying attention to you, because you have done something mind-blowingly audacious, stupid, and blindly egotistical. So, just so you know here. All right. So she continues here to talk about this, and she says, if this sounds like a redux of the smear campaign against Amber Heard that peaked during her 2022 defamation trial against Johnny Depp. Oh, I'm sorry, you can't see this because I'm still on the screen. My bad. Just a second. So getting back to this article, we're not going to read the whole thing. I'm about to move on, but I want to look at this. If it sounds like a redux of the smear campaign against Amber Heard that peaked during her 2022 defamation trial against Johnny Depp, that's because this is a new chapter in the same playbook. Ooh. Baldoni's crisis publicist Melissa Nathan, who Lively is also suing, worked for Depp during the trial. Ooh. Some of the same YouTubers who covered the trial, although you won't name us, will you, who covered the trial through a strictly anti-Heard and pro-Depp lens have been churning out hate videos about Lively, earning millions of views and thousands of dollars. An anti-Lively sentiment has dominated the comment section on platforms like Reddit and TikTok. And so then what she proceeds to do in this, I'm not going to read more of it, what Kat Tinbarge proceeds to do here in this is explain why this anti-Blake Lively sentiment was manufactured by, why she believes it was manufactured by Justin Baldoni and his team. And the thing is, y'all, we all know that that's not the case because we're actually the content creators out here and the public who are creating and consuming this material. So we get it. We understand the interest. Oh my gosh. Just a second. All right. Sorry, y'all. Just a second here.
Ah! Hey, hi.
I'm sorry. I'm acting like you're Elvis here.
That's what I do too when I see me. It's fine. I'm used to it. Hey, what's going on? Congrats.
Well, thank you. I mean, I don't know if you remember your 100,000 milestone or not, but it is huge for me. This is Nick Rekieta. Everyone say hello and be nice.
It's okay. I don't care. Just be within the guidelines of the chat.
You're battle hardened. I know.
Man, I've had a rough year, so it's like people can say whatever they want nowadays. I don't care.
Why? What has happened? I was doing ayahuasca last year, so the whole last year is gone for me. So no.
Yeah, me too. If you
Oh
don't,
my
if you don't know,
God.
it's a really long story. It's not wrapped up entirely yet. But long story short, I was doing a bunch of drugs, and then the police caught me, and it's like, oh well, that kind of threw my life into turmoil, and it's been a mess. But we don't need to bog down that
No,
that.
absolutely. I'm not gonna make you talk about it. I appreciate you being here. And for people who wonder, why am I being so happy here where he's describing what he's been through? I'm sure you appreciate it, Nick. I have a real gallows humor about life. And I've been
Yeah.
through some similar times in my life and whatever different circumstances, but I'm just glad that you are whatever happened or didn't happen or whatever, like you're good in my book and you've always been cool to me and I see you're on the upswing and I'm just glad for that. So
Yeah, I mean, you get into some messy situations sometimes. Life kind of piles on, and things explode, and it's a big mess. And you have to just pick up the pieces and go on, right? Like you can't do anything about that, and it it sucks a lot, and it can be really tough. But hey, what I swear, I got everything. My camera has been just driving me nuts lately. I'm gonna probably take it out back and shoot it.
you're all right. I'm just glad that you're here. So look, have you yet weighed in at all on the Blake Lively Justin Baldoni thing?
No, I was watching my friend Danny on Direct talk about it the other day because I heard little ancillary stuff and I had no idea. The past year seriously has been like I've been so wrapped up in my own situation that I haven't followed much of anything. And so I was trying to catch up. You had mentioned it to me. She'd mentioned it to me. Megan Fox had mentioned it to me. And so I haven't weighed in, but what it sure looks like is Blake Lively asked for a bunch of stuff, kind of got like everything she wanted, and then proceeded to be mad about it and is like complaining about this guy. And it seems like this Baldoni guy made the mistake of like listening and doing everything, which is a common problem. Like guys listen to women in these professional environments. And they were so scared of the Me Too movement and how brutally it just ravaged some people. Like it caught some bad people, but it ravaged a bunch of people who I don't want to say they're good or bad. They're just people living under different mores than what this movement thought was okay.
Right.
And so they got so scared of it, they started capitulating to all these ideas and setting up these their own barriers, which ended up setting themselves up for failure. And that's what from just an outside blanket perspective, I have very little knowledge of this, but that's what it looks like has happened. And people seem to be kind of finding that out, and it's really impacting Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively's reputation, which now they're mad about, obviously. But
Well, it seems like you have actually a pretty good handle on the general dynamic there, to be honest with you. Do you feel like let me put it this way, are you surprised at how insanely how many people are focused on this, like how big the story has blown up?
I think, I don't know. I've been watching long before I joined YouTube, long before I had a law degree even. I was watching the glee with which we shred celebrity. And there seems to be this allergic reaction to anyone who can be in some way heroic. And I know people are thinking that I'm probably talking about myself, and I'm not. I saw it first with Tiger Woods, right? Tiger Woods did a whole lot for golf and coming into a culture that was really behind on racial relations. I mean, when Tiger Woods first won the Masters at Augusta, he wasn't allowed to be a member because he's black. Like that was still a thing that existed in the world, and people kind of forget how far behind golf was everywhere else. Just in the regular course of integrating racially, not like any forced stuff. They were largely left alone because of the privacy of golf clubs, right? And so Tiger Woods does all this, and he's like this. Not only is he just really, really great at golf, he seems to be a rather beneficial impact in the community. He has this like not in your face way to breach a racial divide. It wasn't like battered into people. He didn't come out with some giant social justice campaign. He just came out and kicked everybody's ass at golf. I'm like, well, I guess the black people can play too. We'll let him in. You know, so he does all this, but man, when it comes out that he slept with these other women, people were so anxious to just tear down everything else about him.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like almost like they wanted to undo everything he's done. It's like, well, this stuff isn't really related to that. And so that's when I first started really paying attention, you know, which is a combination of factors like my age and what I was watching media wise. But you see that happen. It doesn't matter what side of the celebrity people fall on. These people rise to this ubiquitous status. I mean, Blake Lively may not be a household name, but she's very famous. She was really famous in the 90s or mid 2000s. But Ryan Reynolds, of course, is Deadpool. He's involved with Marvel. He's done tons of hilarious movies. He launched a cell phone company. Like, he's not just an actor. He's become, in many cases, a household name. Well, once that happens, you become so lightning rod polarizing when anything goes down, and everybody wants to see what goes on either side, whether they're rooting for your triumph or your downfall. And so I'm not really surprised by how big and popular this gets. We saw with Johnny Depp, it's like Johnny Depp's a huge actor or whatever, but I didn't go around thinking about Johnny Depp stuff during my average day prior to the trial. Like, it's like, oh, there's that guy from that movie. I like him as an actor. His movies are good. And that's about it. And it's same with Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively, but they're at that level where the engagement is just off the charts, and they have the ability to reach and impact so many different people because of the studios and their networks. And they almost form these like alliances and coalitions amongst other actors. And it can burn everybody to the ground. So it's so enthralling that I'm not surprised at how big it got now. I would have been surprised a couple years ago, but now I'm just like, no way. Anything that involves an A-list celebrity who's got name recognition throughout at least the US, if not the world, you're going to have just a huge response to it, and people are going to go all in on either side.
I think that's absolutely right. And, you know, it's interesting. The difference being in like a Tiger Woods is that I think that the public soured on him just out of the sense of like sexual propriety or something, kind of finger wagging. In this case, you know, like with Amber Heard, Blake Lively's actually gone after aggressively trying to destroy someone. But I think that you're right about the fact that society is always just kind of waiting for an excuse to really jump into these celebrity dramas and cheer for their heroes and really cheer against the villains, right? I mean, it is kind of like the Roman arena, and you've experienced that too, to a degree, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, someone was just banned off of Twitter. And my interaction with that person was they organized an online campaign to have a bunch of weirdos write ethics complaints against me because of me talking about a trans creator who was helping or attempting to help children create hormone replacement therapy in their bathtubs without a doctor or parental oversight. And I'm like, look, I don't care about the trans people. Like, I don't care what you do to your body once you're 18, but let's not have children making bathtub estrogen and chemically altering their physiology without a doctor or a parent or a therapist even being consulted. That just isn't the realm of a YouTube creator. And so I said that with a little bit more colorful language, but they organized a campaign against me. And I look and I'm like, you're a Harvard law professor. Why? Like, I'm a guy on YouTube who went to a shitty law school. Like, why are you after me? But it was like, this trans issue was so important that it's critical to everything about them. And that's what annoys people about trans activists or LGBTQ activists or feminists or whatever. It's like, you're like a vegan. Everything is about this thing. And we don't really we're like, okay, yeah, rights or whatever, but we don't really care. But they need you to care because it's all they care about. And in a lot of ways, I think the Blake Lively situation has elements of that because of, and again, from both sides, because of the Me Too factor. And watching Me Too ravage, we'll go B-list and down media in 2018. and then watching it lose its teeth so dramatically after COVID. Like COVID killed Me Too harder than just about anything, because everybody's like, we don't actually care about that.
That's interesting. I've not heard anyone say that, but that's interesting.
Yeah, it was really, it's like, we want to know if we're going to die, if we're going to be forced to take vaccines, if we're ever going to get to go out again. And everybody was also removed from the workplace. So like the momentum of having additional Me Too stuff come out was gone. The steam was taken out of it.
Right.
And, but now we want to know, like, wait, is this going to be a thing? Like, is it going to be a thing again where someone can make an accusation and completely shred someone's entire career? And that's what they appear to be trying to do to Baldoni, right? Right or wrong. Right. That's what they seem to be trying to do, is just shred his career from the onset. And the goal of a Me Too type movement is to always have the damage done prior to the ability to examine evidence.
Yes.
And so I think we all want to watch, like, what is this going to have any teeth, or do we have to wait for the next like social movement to come through? Like, what are we even doing here? So that's what I think is really building into it as well.
That's great analysis. So I want to ask you two things from the perspective of a lawyer, someone who understands the law. It seems like in these Me Too cases, and I'll take Baldoni's as the best example, that these attorneys are getting more and more public in their activities, and that they're venturing more and more sort of Adam Waldman-like into the public realm and fighting a PR battle. It seems increasingly that attorneys like Brian Friedman or Adam Waldman or whomever, they see themselves as PR advocates just as much as legal advocates. Do you think this will continue to increase this hybridization of the media world and PR? I mean, and legal. Yeah. I mean, no, it's been going on since OJ, but doesn't it feel like to you it's really taken a new level?
Yeah, social media changed everything. And then everybody underestimated the impact of social media because legacy media held the reins on everything for so long. Once legacy media started capitulating to social media, the power dynamic shifts, and it's not going back in any foreseeable way. So, before you could make a stink on social media, but you weren't going to get Tom Cruise fired from a movie. Right. Now, you can get Tom Cruise fired from Mission Impossible if you want to. Like, you can do it. You could organize a social media campaign. It may not be true, right? And I think someone like him has probably been very careful, especially in the last several decades, insulating themselves from these types of accusations in the ways you would expect, having intimacy coordinators on any set that involves any sort of interaction, really hammering out in contracts exactly what's going to be there. Like, that's having a good agent will do that. And good entertainment lawyers will do that for these celebrities. But once that shift occurred, that's when all these movements got their power. And with that, you have this issue of now the audience is in control of everything and everything is at risk all the time. Because the PR side of it is so damaging. I don't want to like toot my own horn, but when I covered the Vic Mignogna case where he got Me Too'd back in 2019, that was one of the things I was talking about all the time. I'm like, lawyers are 2 decades behind everybody else all the time. They're risk averse, especially like the larger firms that you get. You don't have lawyers willing to take risks. And so the PR response for Vic when he got Me Too'd was to put out a statement like apologizing. And I'm like, what are you doing? You can't come out and apologize right now. You don't even know what the mob is really accusing you of here. And that set him up in a really bad way. And it was literally a PR apology. I was like, you don't need that. You need to have your lawyers and you need to have people advocating for you in the public arena, because whether you win or lose your legal case, your career lives and dies on what you do now and who's going to have faith in you to keep going afterwards.
Right.
And I've seen so many law firms not do that. And that was one of the strongest things that I think Adam Waldman did for Johnny Depp, because Depp sat there just taking beating after beating after beating. Waldman starts coming out and speaking for him as his representative. And suddenly the tables start to turn. People start to go, wait, this story isn't this way. Wait, he's actually standing up and fighting back. And this guy's making some sense. And that kind of opens the door.
And they leaked those audios, or they circulated those audios too, which was huge.
Right. And in any of this war that can be fought in social media, I mean, when your job is to be popular, you have to fight in the realm of popularity. You can fight legally and it can help, but it cannot save you. It cannot save a career. It cannot stop an accusation. You have to fight in the realm of where your popularity, where your resources exist in the first place. And most importantly, especially as you get down from legacy media into people like us, creators who cultivate an audience of people who like what we do for whatever reason, you have to leverage the help and support of the people who got you where you are in the first place. And if you don't, then I've made some decisions about that personally that may not reflect immediately what I'm saying, but like I made those decisions very consciously. I knew what I would have to sacrifice, and I knew the reasons I was doing it.
Well, and you were in your circumstances too, were not to put too fine a point on it. That's a criminal versus here we're talking civil. So I know that's
right.
That's a big difference as well.
Yeah, of course. I didn't, I have a government to fight, and fighting the government on social media doesn't really work. Like you'll win and then you'll go to prison.
Yeah.
So
a Pyrrhic victory, if ever there was one.
Right. And so it works out a little bit differently. But watching the Vic situation, watching Johnny Depp, watching any of these celebrity trials, and you see their lawyers and you're like, what are you doing? You have no consideration for what this person needs. And that was
in a PR sense, you mean?
Right. And that's what I mean. Their lifeblood is their reputation.
Right.
And that was one of the frustrating things, even with working with my lawyer, who in my case, who understood that. They understand it at an intellectual level. They don't have a visceral grasp of what social media is. And that's because they're not on it in an effective way. They may have a few hundred to a few thousand followers, but it's like when you start getting to hundreds of thousands, millions of followers, like it's the level of influence that exists and the potential devastating effects of that in either direction have to be realized. And so I think there are law firms out there that have a grasp of it and are getting better. Harmeet Dillon, with the Dillon Law Group, she works with Ron, she's a firm partner or whatever. Ron Coleman is one of the lawyers from that firm as well. Like they take on these high profile cases that they go against governments, they go against organizations. Ron Coleman's been representing Gavin McInnes for years and years and years against the Southern Poverty Law Center. Because they called him like a racist or something. And he's like, I'm not a racist. And this distinction, like you've not only made me a racist, but you call me a hate group. Like that distinction has damaged me. So now I'm going to sue you. But suing the Southern Poverty Law Center is damn near impossible. Like they're an organization that has been built on a perception of goodwill, right? Like, oh, we point out people who are nasty, horrible people.
Right.
It's like, well, what if you did that wrong though? What if you get it wrong and you ruin someone's life like that? What do we do now? And so you see the Dillon Law Group, they're kind of inspirational in my opinion, as far as being on the forefront of recognizing reputation, recognizing what people are up against in these situations, and also leveraging the celebrity of the person, because you built it, use it. Like, cause if you don't, it's going away anyway. You have to win.
Right. So. And I see increasingly that the legal strategy for a number of these famous Me Too guys is increasingly taking the PR, the importance of the PR angle into consideration. I mean, some of these defamation lawsuits that some of these guys file, like Marilyn Manson, I don't even think that their attorneys expect that they're going to go the full distance. But the idea is that the law is at least, it's really the only forum left that has some legitimacy in people's minds, where you can get your evidence out there and in a cogent way, an organized way, and you can say, look, I've got evidence, right? And so it's like you said, with these Me Too cases, people's minds are made up long before you get to a court determination or anything like that.
Right. And if you think about it, if you're at the level where you already have entertainment lawyers or you have a corporation paying for your lawyers, filing a document in court that will be covered by the news is about the most cost-effective advertising you can do. Because once you've already sunk costs into representation and you're in the middle of this thing, like filing a document is essentially free. There might be like $100 filing fee depending on the forum you're in or whatever, but so what, and that's going to get play when you're a celebrity, even a minor celebrity, that's going to get play on Fox News, on CNN, on NBC. Like, they're going to cover it and they're going to spread whatever narrative you need spread. So using lawfare in that way, again, and this takes a really sophisticated conversation with a client, because you have to tell them our goal is always to win ethically. Like, your legal goal as a lawyer representing someone is to win their case. But really, it's to zealously represent them in all forums. And so it's like, we may not even think we can win this case, but is the cost of doing this case worth possibly preserving everything you've built? Without it, do you have a chance? Can you get a job if you don't fight? And the answer is often no. And you look at some of the responses of some of the early Me Too people. One of them that I think is like one of the most baffling responses in history was Kevin Spacey, when he was accused by Anthony Rapp of molesting him when he was a teenager. And Kevin Spacey's like, well, I don't remember that, but if I did, I'm sorry. And it's like, what? That's your answer? You cannot say, I don't remember fondling you as a child, but if I did, like, I'm sorry, I was probably drunk at a party. Oh my God, this is not better.
By the way, and then he threw in, remember that announcement that he was gay too. As a gay man, it's like,
look, I may have done that. I'm sorry. I don't remember. If I did, too bad. Also, I'm going to live my life as a gay man now. It's like, you are not helping.
It was
helping at all.
Yeah, it was not a good statement. That's for sure. So listen, I appreciate you being here, and I know you're a busy guy. You're welcome to stick around longer, but there is something while it's on my mind I want to get your reaction to. I don't know. Have you been paying any attention to the Jay-Z stuff or nah?
The Jay-Z stuff.
Jay-Z, yeah, it's okay if you haven't, but I want to
know only the P. Diddy stuff, because I'm like, I'll put my degeneracy up against yours. Let's try.
Oh my God. All right. So this is the latest news with the Jay-Z thing, basically, is that, hold on a second.
Drop your message thing.
You what?
Your message thing's up. I hate bringing up Twitter on screen.
I got you. Yeah. So yeah, no worries on that. I'm trying to get to my bookmarks actually here.
No worries till I start sending you messages in just a second.
Oh, well, no, it's not gonna. I see. I got you. I was like, what is he talking about? Okay, they're gonna see us doing drug transactions there, Nick.
Yeah. Please don't say that. My probation officer might be watching.
It's a joke. It's absolute joke. Okay, so but let me get to here. What? Thank you. That's funny. This is why I don't like to stream, is because let me put this way. It's a good thing that I'm not into porn, because if I were, then it would have it be like always coming on and stuff, because I'm terrible with the technology. So it's like, okay. All right. So this is what I wanted to show you here.
It's already dropped her loss.
Actually, we're just going to watch this. It's not very long, and this will kind of give you an idea of just what I wanted you to react to here. So
the woman who accused Jay-Z of sexual assault has already dropped her lawsuit. But now, for the first time, you're going to hear the story behind the bombshell accusation that has since been withdrawn. Jay-Z's lawyer says it should put to rest any doubt about his innocence. This morning, the woman who said she was 13 when Sean Jay-Z Carter and Sean Diddy Combs sexually assaulted her after the 2000 MTV Video Musical.
Hold on, I can stop it here, son. What were you saying?
He says this should put to rest any questions about Jay-Z's innocence. I said that's an ambiguous statement. Like,
gotcha.
It might, but no. Right. 13, not good. Not a good look.
Well, so she basically, what's happened, I'll give you the rundown here so this will make more sense. But this Texas lawyer named Tony Busby, who's filed 200 lawsuits against Sean Combs, Diddy, but that's a different thing.
Tony Busby's hilarious.
He filed this lawsuit on behalf of this client who was claiming that she was assaulted when she was 13. Well, what happened was, as soon as this lawsuit was filed, her allegations came out. She was immediately discredited by multiple factual errors. For instance, she said that she had at this party where she was assaulted a long conversation with the Madden brothers, and it turns out they were across country doing a concert at that time. Like
Sure.
this is the level of, so basically she was totally discredited. Well, this is what's happened since then. Is someone, I guess Jay-Z, sent some investigators to her house and to chat her up, and she admitted, and this is where we are here, that she lied and that her lawyer got her to lie. So this is what this is.
Her after the 2000 MTV Video Music Awards is heard talking to private investigators about her claim and agreeing that Jay-Z did not assault her.
So
Jay-Z you're saying he was definitely there, but he had no part in it, or he was just?
He was there. He was just there, but he didn't have anything to do with any sexual acts towards you. It was strictly,
The woman is also heard saying her
accents
lawyer
take me home.
put her up to suing one of the.
What's that?
Those accents take me home. I was born in Houston, so like,
yeah, well,
here-
you know, I'm in Texas too. It's nice to hear. So now wait till you hear Busby's accent. So this is the big part of the big news here is that so basically they've got her on tape saying that no, Jay-Z, or admitting Jay-Z didn't assault me, and then here we go.
The world's most recognizable stars.
He was the one that kind of pushed me towards going forward with him.
with Jay-Z. Busby did.
Yeah,
Do you know why?
no.
ABC News exclusively obtained a minute-long excerpt of the recording made days after the woman, identified as Jane Doe, permanently dropped her lawsuit against both Carter and Combs last month.
The people around Mr. Carter wanted to know what happened behind closed doors. And so they asked for her to be interviewed. The interview occurred, and the tape speaks for itself. She says, in no uncertain terms, Mr. Carter did not do this. It is effectively a lie. And the only reason Mr. Carter is even involved in this is because she was pushed to involve him, pushed to include him by a lawyer.
The accuser's lawyer, Tony Busby, called it a blatant lie that he pushed Jane Doe to sue Jay-Z, and he sent us this recording of a phone call with his client.
They say that they have you on tape denying that Jay-Z
assaulted you.
Is that true?
Is that true?
No,
Well, they say they have
I
it.
never said that.
Okay. They also say that you told them, and they have it on tape, that I, Tony Busby, told you to like came up with this plan and told you to say that Jay-Z assaulted you so you would get more money.
No.
Jane Doe said in a court filing, although
He needs to bring me a Luann platter. I'm starving.
So look, what's your kind of, I mean, not knowing this case well or whatever, but as a lawyer, what's kind of your immediate reaction to all of this?
So without besmirching the good name of Tony Busby, who if you don't know about he's done all kinds of antics. He's kind of a Houston fixture. If you don't know about the tank incident.
Tell me the tank incident. No, I want to know.
It was like his homeowners association got mad at him for something. So he bought a tank and just parked it in front of his house just to piss off the HOA. And I'm like, there's a little respect that needs to happen there. But telling the story in a, without using Tony Busby here, because who knows what happened, right?
Right.
Jay-Z's lawyer sent some investigators. They asked some leading questions to this woman who I have no idea her level of intelligence, experience, or eloquence, but if she's highly manipulable, they get her to say what they need her to say, and then an audio recording gets sent out exclusively to a major news network, right? Like a great move, a brilliant move by Jay-Z's lawyer. We have no idea what other things were involved in that, what other possible, you could really be in trouble with this. Jay-Z could countersue you and bring this stuff up. So we have no idea if there was any of that kind of pressure put behind the scenes on her dropping the suit. But you would expect that there was at least the hint that something like that would happen, right? So then Tony Busby has to come back and come up with some way that he didn't do. You need to say, I didn't do this.
Right.
Because if you say I did this, and I did it, and anyone can prove it, we're torched, because that will pierce attorney-client privilege. That's the intent to defraud, right? And so you don't get to hide a conspiratorial crime behind privilege. They will pierce that. So he needs to get her out there saying, no, that didn't happen. They misunderstood me, etc. So he gets his piece out, and then he'll gracefully exit. But There's
So
this
you're saying
lawyer.
basically, I'm sorry, you're
yeah,
saying
yeah.
basically that both of these recordings, we don't really know what preceded them. So both of these recordings, the woman could have just basically been fed some stuff because actually in both of them, both Jay-Z's side or those investigators, and then also Busby, it kind of sounds like they're leading her. And so this and this and this.
Absolutely.
And yes, honestly, it came out right after her lawsuit that she has a pre-existing head injury, like even before the Jay-Z stuff. Or she's not claiming Jay-Z did it, but she has a pre-existing head injury, and
Right.
I wonder if the woman's even like is even like capable.
Yeah, and that might have been a reason why she made a very good client to make a very dubious claim. Because if you make the claim and they're not able to sustain it, they can blame the head injury, they can blame fuzzy memory. Like seriously, because what's the shot, right? Tony Busby doesn't want to go to trial against Jay-Z.
Mm-hmm.
He wants Jay-Z to cut a $250,000 check to this woman, and he's going to take $125,000. Like that's
Right.
what he wants to happen.
Right.
It's an easy dunk. If you can do something like that, and it happens a lot during pile-ons, and I can refer to someone who has done this in gross ways a couple of times. It's an attorney named Kevin Landau, and he's the first attorney I covered on my channel ever. He was representing this guy named Maddox. And what we started to find in looking up Kevin Landau's other representation is he would be tertially involved in these really high profile cases with severe allegations. One of them was a finance CEO in New York who got Me Too'd, probably deserved it. It seemed like there were a lot of legitimate cases. But then this Landau guy comes and sues from these two other women. And he claims that this guy flew to LA, hired these women, flew them back to New York, and then chained them up and did like horrifically violent sexual acts on them. Stuff like beyond anything they would have consented to. And that was the story. Well, they weren't actually suing the guy because the guy died. So he was suing the estate.
Mm-hmm.
And it's in the midst of like 6 other allegations, high profile against this estate. And this guy is loaded, several $100 million estate here. And so they're going after the quick win. And so what you do, what these guys do, these predatory attorneys do, is they will convince someone, look, we can take a shot. This guy's under fire, or this thing's under fire. He's dead, so he can't refute it. All you have to do is try and, the estate may not want to fight it, and we can get in on some of these settlements that are happening. I mean, imagine if you're involved in getting a settlement from Bill Cosby or a Harvey Weinstein as part of the like overflow. You don't want your case to go to trial. You don't want those embarrassing details out there. You don't want any of that, but you do want the check representing the damage that was done to you. And that's not entirely like, that's not always nefarious, right?
That's true. Right.
But the predatory lawyers who do this, when they do it, they convince someone who lacks the capacity or lacks the social network to advise them. And they convince them to do this thing. Like, this will be an easy thing. We'll get a check cut and we'll get it done. And I don't know if that's what Tony Busby did here, but you can see how that could happen with someone who's in that situation. The downfall, of course, or the downside of that is if you can manipulate someone, the other side can too.
Right.
And it kind of looks like that's what happened there, right? Like those two calls are both people who are very good at asking questions to get specific answers to someone who is completely untrained at answering those questions.
Right.
And so they both got her to say the opposite thing. They can't both be true. Like he either induced her to do it or he didn't. And we'll never know.
No. And I feel like that though is, even though it may seem like a draw, that's still a net win for Jay-Z, because the presumption of innocence and the fact that we can't trust this woman, if she's so wishy-washy, then she's just like, whatever anyone says to her, she's going with that invalidates her, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. But the question becomes like, how does that impact Jay-Z's other troubles? Because, Jay-Z can afford to pay $15,000, $20,000 to have this person, like, you can take care of this issue, get this lawsuit dropped as part of the ongoing litigation. But does that save him from the other 199 lawsuits?
Oh, well, that's the 199. Oh, that's Sean Combs. Yes.
Right. That's
Jay-Z's okay.
That's Diddy. Yeah. So Jay-Z just had the one.
He did.
Yeah.
We'll see, but yeah.
But you'll we'll always have to ask, like, how much did that damage his reputation? Because
lot.
there's some people who will believe it no matter
a
what.
lot.
Like, and
A lot of people were dancing on his grave, and well, of course, again, you know who that is, right? But definitely, and I think, and so the last thing I want to ask you, and then I'm going to wrap it up for myself too, because it's getting late. But as I understand it, this is a pretty new tactic for someone who is accused of who is sued for a Me Too type issue to then turn around and sue the attorney representing the claimant for defamation and such. Like, isn't what Jay-Z's doing, suing Busby, isn't that pretty next level and kind of new? Or is this something that people have done?
okay, so it's really tough to sue a lawyer for what they do in court, what they file. All of those are privileged. All those filings are privileged. But every privilege has a limit, right? And one of the big ones is if you file a privileged document, but you do so for the purpose of defaming someone, and most importantly, you are involved in the release of that document, either prior to filing or you're the one who make sure it gets to the media, you start to run the risk of piercing the privilege of saying what's in the document without repercussions.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you factor in what we were talking about earlier, where social media has become such a part of the battle, well, now you do have these lawyers wading into the realm of public opinion. They are like, if your lawyer is out there making statements, lawyers are used to saying whatever they need to say for their client and having that veil of protection. That doesn't exist on Twitter, right? Like, you can't go out and defame Jay-Z and be like, Jay-Z raped my client. Like, you can put that in the document and you can file the document. And if someone else covers it, you're insulated almost entirely. You can lie about people in the worst ways in a filing, but it's privileged. However, if you take those lies and you bring them into the public space, or if you take those lies and you utilize them and it becomes clear that the filing was just a way to try and validate that puts you at risk for litigation. And so we'll probably see more of it as these lawyers do wade into social media. Because when I say lawyers are 20 years behind technology, they're 20 years behind the mores that are associated with them as well. Go look at lawyers on Twitter. Most of them are embarrassing, self included. Like, they don't know how to navigate the social media environment because they fight in an arena with rules.
Right.
And Twitter's rules are very different, right? It's like, don't say a slur, but you can excoriate someone. You can ruin their entire life.
Right.
In court, you have to have basis for your filings. You have to go through procedure. They get a chance to respond. I mean, you can destroy someone on Twitter before they even have a chance to wake up and read about themselves losing their life. And so these lawyers, when you look at their social media and you go, oh, great, these are the people who are going to be fighting for me. You've got to start looking to lawyers at least as a consult who know how to navigate social media, who know about PR, guys like Robert Barnes, people with this. Oddly enough, I would say a lot of the legal streamers are probably going to be better at navigating PR than they will be at doing the legal work that they used to do after a while. I know, like, my PR is not great right now, but in general, like, helping someone else out, I can give them tons of advice on what they should be doing. And I will, like, I have a lot of experience seeing how that affects numbers and affects viewership and pisses people off and all that stuff. I'm way better and more versed in that at this point in my life than I am at legal filings, which I haven't really practiced in like 3-4 years. I don't want to. I like streaming way better.
Right.
So we're going to see like some really bad social media lawyers come in, and they'll probably expose themselves to tons of liability because they just won't have the feel for it. And I think lawyers who are able to, it doesn't matter what platform, it doesn't matter what format, start developing like large audiences on social media, that will become a high selling point for a very specialized field of law centered around this type of stuff.
Right.
Celebrity is getting rewritten from people who are known by tens to hundreds of millions of people down to you have 250,000 subscribers on YouTube or 400,000 followers on Instagram, like you're now a level of celebrity that didn't exist 4 decades ago.
Right.
And how
right.
society deals with it is going to be really odd.
Right. Wow. You know, these are some great observations, honestly. And have you thought about starting a YouTube channel, Nick?
I've thought about it. I don't know. I had a bad experience.
No, seriously though, this is great stuff. And I know we had kind of a visual glitch here and there, but I'm going to cut some videos from this and I'll be able to cover it with photos. So this is just perfect. And I really appreciate you. Listen, y'all, I'm going to take us out here and because it's time for me to kind of start shifting into gears for other things, but I appreciate all of you being here for me reaching the 100,000 mark. And thanks a lot. And thank you so much, Nick, for showing up. And I'm going to be cutting some good videos from this, so I'll send them to you when they're up. But
it's my pleasure. Huge congrats. And you asked if I remembered hitting the 100,000 mark. And yes, I 1,000,000% do. It was such a cool day. I was trying to get it before the end of the year in 2020, and I got it. I passed 100K on like December 30th or 31st. I just snuck in, and it was like it doesn't mean anything. Like you're really between 99,500 subscribers,
right.
But it means everything because it's everything you worked for. It's where YouTube decides to recognize your effort for the first time in like a really tangible way. So, never ever let go of that, like that feeling, that accomplishment, because try and find someone else who can get 100,000 people to press a button, and they can't do it. So you've done something really special, and it's awesome to see.
Thank you so much. And I hope and pray and fully expect that this year is going to be better for you than the last was. So
it's a low bar.
You know what it reminds me of? Can I end with something like totally gallows humor?
Of course.
There's a scene in Schindler's List where the Jews have just been have basically just been segregated to the ghetto, and some of them are standing around, some of the men are standing around outside, and they're complaining about how horrible the conditions are, right? And one of them says, "But look at it this way. We've hit the bottom. We know that it can't get any worse than this."
And the Curb Your Enthusiasm music plays like right after. It's like, no.
Oh man! But on that note, thank you so much, and good wishes to you this year, and thank you so much for being here. And everybody, thanks to my mods. Thank you to all of you. Stick around. Best is yet to come. Bye, everybody.